Greetings, beautiful souls. Come with me to a land of imagination, a place where your mind can soar to infinite possibilities. I'm your favorite author, Lisa Walker McCrae, with another spellbinding story time from my novel, A Peculiar Kind of Love. Remember, you guys, this video is for entertainment purposes only. First of all, y'all know what it is. Big ups to the Most High, Yah. We always gotta put Him first before everything. And another shout out to those that have been lending me your ears for all this time. Thank you for your time and support. I really hope these story times are keeping you guys entertained. So, with that love being shown, y'all ready to fuel those imaginations and turn some pages? Awesome sauce. Chauncey, set the stage. Okay, you guys, quick recap. So we left Drew at Saddle Girls, that's Dean's boutique, getting an outfit for her 29th birthday. Jay and Marcus has talked her into this rodeo-style birthday party, and our girl seems to be all in. As a matter of fact, she even invited Dean. These two seem to have built a bond, so we're just gonna welcome Dean on in because it doesn't look like she's going anywhere anytime soon. On the other note, Marcus and Jay are playing their role well, making sure to keep Drew busy and out of her head. Fortunately, her recent shopping trip had done just that. Drew had finally got her attire together. Emerging from the doors of Saddle Girls, Drew was now on her way to King's Cut for a little interaction with Marcus. The shop was just up the street from Saddle Girls, so Drew decided to walk. The autumn breeze was just what she needed after being cooped up in Dean's boutique for over an hour. Drew could appreciate Marcus's downtown shop. It was only a block from Cambridge, which is where she worked, and it gave her free access to Marcus anytime she wanted. Marcus spent a lot of time at his downtown shop. He told Drew the reason for that is because it had more sentimental value, being that it was the first shop he'd opened up on his own. Of course, his dad's shop was where Marcus learned to master his God-given talent. But his downtown shop was his vision. Okay, our boy Marcus has status, huh? Got his ducks in a row. Anywho, Drew struck out on her mission to King's Cuts, where she used to be a stranger. Now it had become her own personal adventure. Drew loved going into the shop, staring up the barbers and beauticians with some crazy conspiracy theory she'd throw at them. It always amused her how they'd latch onto a subject, boasting and voicing all their different opinions stored up, waiting to present them to whomever would listen. Drew loved the crowd at the downtown shop, but she loved the Southside crowd even more. They seemed to be more open to receive knowledge about their history and heritage versus the downtown crowd who basically wanted everything sugar-coated and unaware of the reality around them. The topics of conversations were always better at the Southside shop as well. Drew never had to throw out a subject. There was usually one up for discussion whenever she went in. She'd arrived. Walking into the shop, Drew was greeted by everyone. This always made her feel like she was on an episode of Cheers when they did that. Hey y'all, Drew returned the greeting, handing the downtown shop a warm smile. She hurried to kiss her man. Marcus was more than excited to see Drew, his reason to smile. The pair greeted each other with a kiss. Marcus asked Drew how her day was, adding another kiss to her neck. Don't do that, Drew uttered with a blush. She always became coy when Marcus showed his affection in front of the crew. Their oohs and ahs always made her blush like a teenage girl who'd heard her first compliment from a boy. Drew followed up Marcus's question, informing him her day was interesting but good. Marcus had a client in his chair, so Drew didn't want to go into detail, especially about gaining 20 pounds, and everything she tried on felt like she was trying to stuff a jumbo marshmallow into a pin top. So Drew told him the basics as she watched him cut his client's hair. She smiled, amazed at how Marcus owned the clippers. He was good. He was professional. Marcus could make a blind man see his work. Marcus looked over at Drew. He adored her smile. She was involved with the clippers, so involved she didn't realize Marcus was staring at her. Hun, see, these two got it bad. They can live off the love they're experiencing. I'm just saying. It's beautiful though. Anyway, Marcus paused his cutting, then pretended to ride a horse. So, you ready for your rodeo, he asked. I think so. Drew gave Marcus a slight grin. She still couldn't believe she let them talk her into these shenanigans. Marcus chuckled, informing Drew he had gotten a mechanical bull. She raised her brow, handing Marcus a skeptical look. I know you don't expect for me to get on that thing, she asked and stated. Marcus leered into Drew's eyes. Seductively, he licked his lip, pulling her close. He then whispered in her ear, I expect for you to get on that bull and ride it. Drew's cheeks grew warm, and not long after that, Michael yelled out the first ooh. Oh, Michael is always in Marcus's business. Sheesh. But I guess that's a little brother for you. Anyway, Drew looked over at Michael and smiled with embarrassment, considering the words only she'd heard. Placing an index finger over her lips, Drew silently told Michael to be quiet. He blew her a kiss, then proceeded to cut his client's hair. Y'all see, Drew and Michael weren't particularly fond of each other, but tolerated one another for Marcus's sake. Michael held a resistance towards Drew after remembering she was a hot Mary J. impersonator at Eclipse that had this squeal of a man drooling all over her. Michael never told Marcus about the performance or the kiss, considering his feelings, but he made sure that Drew knew that he knew her little secret. Drew didn't care. It didn't bother her one bit about Michael's awareness or resistance. Hell, she only had met two members of Marcus's family, and they both were questionable. So Drew didn't care if she wasn't the center of their attention, as long as she was the center of Marcus's attention. Besides, her interest was in the parents. She hoped to get better results when meeting them. And she should, because families haven't always necessarily been Drew's pot of gold. I mean, look at her, what her biological family did and her foster parents did, so who can blame her, you know? It would be insane to go into another family with the same toxicity, right? Anyways, Drew hoped Amy and Michael were the only misfits, and his parents were people she could be comfortable with. Anywho, focusing her attention back on Marcus, Drew reassured she was not getting on that bull. Nope, not getting on it. Nope, not going to happen. Not Julie McCain, she stated. Still in the kiss, Marcus was like, how about Drew and Tidwell? Drew hurried to cover his mouth. Shh, someone might hear you. Be quiet, she ordered. Marcus laughed, removing Drew's hand. Then he kissed it. He told her he didn't know why she was keeping the engagement a secret. Oh, there it is. She said yes. Oh, it's about time these two finally got themselves together. So why not share the good news, Drew? Marcus asked the same question. Drew told him she wanted to share the news, but wanted to tell everyone at the same time. Marcus respected Drew's request, so he would be quiet for now. The couple talked amongst themselves while Marcus put the finishing touches on his client's cut. With the spin of his chair, Drew noticed that Carl was sitting there. Y'all know Carl, right? Drew's father? Okay, he was sitting there. Their eyes met. Both were in awe. Both were asking the same question, like, how are we both here? Why are we here together in the shop? Drew glared down at Carl. No movement. Feet planted. What is he doing here? Drew asked Self, waiting on an answer from Self that had no clue. You okay, baby? Marcus asked for the third time, finally interrupting the stare down. It felt like all eyes were on her. Drew couldn't take it. The secret humiliation was too much. Glancing over at Marcus, then at Carl, Drew hurried to take shelter in a ducked-off spot in the back of the shop. Now all eyes were on Drew, everybody wondering why the dramatic storm out. Like everyone else, Marcus was just as lost and didn't know why Drew ran off. With no hesitation, he ran after her, leaving Carl bewildered. Walking into the secluded room, Drew paced. Marcus could see she was in some kind of distress. "Baby, what's wrong?" he asked, taking Drew's hand and rubbing her arms, trying to calm her shaken spirit. Pointing at the door, Drew asked, "What is he doing here?" Looking back at the door, Marcus had no clue who Drew was referring to. "Who is he?" Marcus asked. Drew told him Carl, the man sitting in his chair. Marcus's face was puzzled with confusion. He questioned self, then Drew. "Who are you talking about?" "That's Sarge," Marcus asked and stated. "No, Marcus, that's Carl, my father," Drew informed. Marcus caressed his goatee with another question for self. He asked, "How in the hell could Sarge be Drew's father? I've been cutting this man's hair for years. And how is his name Carl when his name has always been Sarge?" "Sarge is your father?" Marcus asked out loud. Drew responded, "No, Marcus, Carl is my father." She folded her arms, becoming aggravated with Marcus. "Okay, Marcus, sweetheart, catch up." Anyways, as good as Marcus feels, he walks over to the door and peeked out at the confused man trying to make a comparison. Sarge started walking towards the room. Marcus hurried to close the door as fast as he opened it. "Here he come," Marcus announced. Drew was up, pacing back and forth, biting her nails. She made it clear she didn't want to talk to the dude. Marcus wasn't going for it. He could understand Drew's frustration, but for him, she was acting like a child and needed to face her pain, her thorn. So, today was the day Marcus put his foot down. It was time for Drew to release this hurt, and he wasn't letting her out until she did. Drew was still pacing. Carl sternly knocked at the door. He was over Drew not being reasonable with him. It was time for her to accept him as her father or not. For Carl, he was the elder and the wiser, so felt it was his responsibility to nip this whole situation in the bud. And now that he had Drew in the corner, this was his chance. "I know that's right, Daddy." Carl. "She wanted a father, so show her one." "Yes, you gotta be careful what you ask for." Carl knocked again. Drew begged without pause for Marcus not to open it. Against her plea, Marcus opened the door anyway. Sarge, Carl, walked into the room, eyes planted on Drew. Marcus apologized for his unprofessionalism, explaining he had to make sure his fiancée was okay. Fiancé, that's an overshell, Marcus, considering y'all were just talking over this man's head, right? Anyway, I feel like there's a little male testosterone being thrown around, and Marcus is known to do that. Being the man that Carl was, he was understanding of the matter, disregarding Marcus's actions. He asked if he could speak with Drew alone. Marcus wasn't going for it. He was determined to stay right there by Drew's side until she released the hurt she carried for this man. Marcus closed the door. The trio spent like hours in the ducked-off room trying to resolve their issues. By the time they emerged from the room, Michael was sweeping up and everyone had left for the night. Gripping the broom, Michael paused his actions. Puzzlingly, he eyed the trio. He could see some tears had been freed. Even Marcus looked as though he'd been crying. Michael knew the matter had to do with Drew, and although the relationship wasn't the best, even he didn't like seeing her upset like that. "You good?" he asked, handing Drew a gentle smile. "I'm good," she responded, returning the gentle smile. Michael nodded his head, proceeding with his chores. "I'm gonna get out of here," Carl stated. Marcus cradled Drew in his arms. He knew she was good, but it didn't stop him from securing her. Before walking out of the door, Carl gazed into Drew's eyes, assuring Marcus was a good man and she made a wise choice to marry him. Well, look at there. The old man's first positive milestone with Drew. The first to know she was getting married. Hey, at this point you gotta call it all a blessing, right? In return, Drew presented Carl with a pleasant smile. Looking up at Marcus, she stated, "I know." Okay, that's what's up now. Not everything had been worked out between this father and daughter. But they understood each other better now and agreed to work past their differences. Beautiful, just beautiful. Everything seems to be working out for Drew. And I'm so happy for her. Although things are going great for Drew, this is not the end of her story. There are so many more pages to this chapter because if y'all remember, she's having a birthday party, right? So there's more to unfold here. Now, I can't tell you guys to stay with me, but I will ask that you come back and join me for another story time. Until then, imagine this: getting everything you ask Yah for, and then some. Trust Him. He's a power with no limits. Yah bless this reading and yourselves. Smooches.